Good morning, everybody. Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Mitch is going to bring us in. Indeed, our Savior leads us every day. We're going to finish up the story of Jacob and Laban today. An interesting story, a great story, but one that can really challenge us. Mitch brings us in. Feeds me with the living bread. Amen. As we come before the Lord to receive His living bread, His word, we will think about the story between Jacob and Laban. It gets good at this point. They've interacted with each other. Jacob has expressed his frustration to Laban. No doubt they've done this time and time before, but finally it comes to a head after Jacob leaves Laban and goes with his flocks and with his family. Laban finds him, hunts him down, and says, "Why did you leave us in the middle of the dark?" But Jacob felt like he had to go because he thought that Laban was going to continue to change his wages. So they have it out. And so then Laban's response to Jacob is found in verse 43 after Jacob says, "Listen, you've tricked me all my life, but I've kept working for you." We talked about the importance of hard work and commitment to fulfilling that obligation to the glory of God yesterday. Now we come together this morning to think about how God works through compromise. Here we go, verse 43. Then Laban answered Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children my children, the flocks my flocks. Everything you see is mine. But what can I do today for these daughters of mine, or the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I. Let it be a witness between the two of us." So Jacob picked out a stone and set up a marker. Then Jacob said to his relatives, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a mound. Then ate there by the mound. Laban named the mound Jegar-Shadutha, but Jacob named it Galeed. Now, I'm going to stop right here for a second and say Laban is a piece of work, right? So Laban comes up and says, "These are my daughters, and these children of my daughters are my children. These are my flocks. Everything you see is mine." Laban is refusing to let go of anything. He still is trying to maintain the fact that he has control over everything. He is taking from Jacob every step of the way. He is constantly trying to take from Jacob. Laban is a piece of work. Laban is not a nice man. Laban is a deceiver. Laban is a control freak. Whatever else you want to put in there, you can put that adjective for Laban, I believe. But finally Laban understands that he can't do anything because Jacob is determined to take them back to the land of Canaan. They are going with Jacob. They've decided they're going to go with Jacob, and they go with Jacob. And so Laban says, "All right, let's make a witness. Let's make an agreement between the two of us." Verse 48 says, "Then Laban said, 'This mound is a witness between you and me today.' Therefore the place was called Galeed and also Mizpah. For he said, 'May the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters or take other wives, though no one is with us, understand that God will be a witness between you and me.' Laban also said to Jacob, 'Look at this mound and the marker I have set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and the marker is a witness that I will not pass beyond this mound to you, and you will not pass beyond this mound and this marker to do me harm. The God of Abraham, the gods of Nahor, the gods of their father will judge between us.' And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his relatives to eat a meal. So they ate and spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early in the morning, kissed his grandchildren and daughters, and blessed them. Then Laban returned home." So these two come together for a compromise. And the compromise is that they will leave, they'll have this one spot, and Laban will not cross over it, and Jacob will not cross over it. They will have this as the place between them. Jacob will take his flocks, Jacob will take his family, and he will go back to his father's land in the land of Canaan. He will not cross back over this spot in the land where they built this mound, a place of remembrance, to do harm to Laban, and Laban will not cross over that spot in order to do harm to Jacob. And he also makes Jacob promise, Laban makes Jacob promise that Jacob will not take another wife. And it's important to note here that as they make this promise, they realize that they're going to be separate, and it's just the two of them. Now, history tells us that in order for an agreement between two people to be legit and binding, it has to be witnessed by a third party. We understand that in the context of marriages, right? In a lot of states in the union, you have to have a witness for a marriage. The agreement between the husband and wife has to be witnessed by a third party. You have to have things notarized, which means you have to have a legal representation of someone notarizing, or an additional party outside of maybe the two or outside the individual that is going to bear witness to the legitimacy of that agreement. And so that's what we have here in this context as well. The witness, however, is not a human. Rather, it is God himself. God is the witness. And so there's a beautiful blessedness to compromise. These two are never going to be satisfied going against each other. They're never going to have enough, right? They're always going to be at war. And so when you get yourself in a situation, and sometimes we find ourselves in a situation like that, with people who may just mistreat us or whatever, we have to realize that sometimes the best thing to do is have compromise. And if there are believing people, then it's important for us to say, all right, here's our compromise, and God is our witness. There is a beauty in compromise, a beauty in covenant, and a beauty in keeping that covenant, which is not to be broken. Jacob here keeps it, Laban keeps it, and they make that promise. And that's an important process for us and a very important tactic for us. Sometimes we're in a situation we need to make a compromise. We need to be willing to do that. We also need to make a covenant and say, you know what? This is our agreed upon position. We're not going to break from that, and we're going to stick with it. And God is our witness. We're going to stick with it in the eyes of the Lord. You guys have a great day. God bless you. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.
You carry me close to your heart, and surely your goodness and mercy will find